East Gate, Jingfumen, is located in the Bo'ai Special Zone in Taipei City. Around it, there are numerous central government agencies dedicated to serving the people and acting on their opinions. Among them, the Legislative Yuan represents the voice of the people the most. The powers of the Legislative Yuan are closely related to the guidelines of people's lives. From the perspectives of regional development, architectural features, democratic contributions, and various other aspects, the Legislative Yuan holds significant importance and should be officially recognized as a cultural heritage to preserve this steadfast treasure that stands tall in history. In 2017, 2 buildings of the Legislative Yuan were recognized as cultural heritage. The U-shaped administrative building within the compound was originally the Taihoku Prefectural Taihoku 2nd Girls High School during the Japanese colonial era. Due to its architectural features and good preservation, it witnessed the evolution of women's education during the Japanese colonial era and the development of democratic governance in Taiwan, and was designated as a municipal heritage site. The Legislative Yuan Chamber, being the venue for national legislative affairs and the birthplace of major legislation, has witnessed the development of democracy in Taiwan and was registered as a historic building. The Qingdao House 2, located outside the Legislative Yuan compound, was formerly known as the former Shichisei District Hall. It features pointed arches and windows, presenting a modern style with simple design. Although there have been partial renovations, the original structure from the Japanese colonial era remains. It witnessed the District Hall system of Taihoku Prefecture and was registered as a historic building in 2021. The architecture of the Legislative Yuan has always been related to Taipei's urban planning, as well as the urban and architectural development. During the Guangxu reign of the Qing dynasty, Taipei City was rectangular in shape. If you stood on the city wall over 100 years ago, you wouldn't see the Legislative Yuan building. It was a rice paddy field. The Japanese colonial era began in 1895. The Japanese believed the city wall in Taipei served no purpose and only hindered urban development. So they demolished the city wall and turned it into a 3-lane road, which is Zhongshan South Road today. They planned the east side of Taipei as an area for cultural and educational facilities. So there used to be many schools here. There was even a medical school. And further ahead, there was the Governor General's Research Institute and a church next to it. In 1919, the Taiwan Public Taipei Girls High School was established at the current location of the Legislative Yuan. In 1921, it was reorganized as the Taihoku Prefectural Taihoku 2nd Girls High School. Since its establishment in 1919, the school had been characterized by its red brick walls, wooden structural frames, and a Japanese-style black tile roof throughout the earliest west and south wings and other school buildings. Originally, the 2nd Girls High School mainly enrolled Japanese students. When it was founded, it admitted 120 students. In 1923, it started accepting Taiwanese students. At first, the school had a 2-year curriculum. Later on, it also included a 4-year program and supplementary courses. By 1935, the number of students had increased to 610, making the original classroom space far from sufficient for use. The North Wing building was then constructed in 1935. It was the final piece completing the campus of the 2nd Girls High School. The L-shaped buildings consisting of the west and south wings were completed in 1921. The design of the central entrance incorporates a tower structure. The corridors are designed with large windows to ensure good ventilation and lighting in the classrooms. The north wing features a 3-story reinforced concrete structure with flat roofs. presenting a sleek modernist style. The exterior features light-colored grooved tiles and the use of horizontal moldings. The entrance of the staircase features classical arched windows. The structure of the west and south wings features a combination of brick, wood, and reinforced concrete. During our investigation, we could see that the interior floors were made of wood. As for the facade of this building, we could see many ventilation openings. When it comes to wooden structures, the ventilation openings are made for ventilation and termite prevention. The important feature of the north wing is the curved moldings. It gives the entire structure a streamlined look. The design of the stairwell exits, window canopies, and oriel windows for wash basins was greatly influenced by Art Nouveau in modernism. So it adopted elements of natural geometry for decoration. This is a distinctive feature of the north wing facade. The windows of the north wing are quite special. They are sash windows with two circular ventilation openings. Even when it's noisy or cold outside, these ventilation openings can still provide better air circulation. During World War II in 1945, the U.S. military carried out the Taipei air raid. The west and south wings suffered severe damage, with the roofs completely destroyed. After the repair of the buildings in 1948, the Provincial Department of Agriculture and Forestry took over the compound, and in 1958, it was then taken over by the Legislative Yuan. The originally sloped roof tower on the central entrance of the west wing was redesigned into a flat roof. Additionally, a porte-cochere was built. This significant change in facade reflected the shift in its usage. The Legislative Yuan adopted the porte-cochere design, just as it was done in Zhongshan Hall. The Legislative Yuan had to borrow the Zhongshan Hall for office space and meetings. It was not spacious enough. Also, there was no dedicated office space available. On March 11, 1952, the first election for the fourth-term president of the Legislative Yuan was held at the Zhongshan Hall. A total of 501 legislators attended the election. Yes, at that time, there were as many as 500 legislators in the Legislative Yuan. When the Legislative Yuan moved to its current location, there was obviously an urgent need for a new legislative chamber. The chamber was constructed on the site of the former playground, so the legislators could have a meeting venue. The design of the chamber consists of geometric blocks. It presents a clean and symmetrical facade with elegant proportions. The chamber hall is supported by large span structures made of precast concrete beams. It is a spacious area measuring 27 meters in width, 30 meters in depth, and 13 meters in height, presenting an open and extended visual experience. The legislators exercise their duties and vote in this chamber. Interpellation.
上次本期在这里质询的时候在说，就是有关离岛的各项建设方面呢。
Legislators advocate for the rights of the people and improve the current state of society through budget reviews and other meetings, as these are the foundation for the operation of the country.
也是促进转型正义工程的重中之重。
The chamber is the venue for national deliberations and the birthplace of major laws. It has witnessed the development of democracy in Taiwan. The Legislative Yuan has taken over the location for over 60 years, and there have been some changes to the buildings. The most significant change is in the southern building complex, which has been completely renovated. Within the Legislative Yuan compound, there are two cultural assets: the administrative building, a municipal heritage site, and the chamber, a historic building. Ever since their completion, the structures, including the black-tiled roof, wooden framework, walls and foundation have roughly remained the same. There were only some reversible modifications. The original exterior corridors of the West Wing have been converted into interior spaces. The administrative building's facade was painted in red for aesthetic purposes. The brick tiles of the chamber have changed from earthy yellow to white. Also, the brick tiles of the North Wing have been stripped of paint to reveal their original brown grooved surface. We can still see the original brick tiles inside the chamber.
Outside the compound, there is a historic building, Qingdao House 2.
It was formerly the Shichisei District Hall during the Japanese colonial era. In 1920, the Taiwan Governor General Office reorganized the administrative districts of Taiwan, hence the establishment of the Shichisei District. The jurisdiction of Shichisei District roughly covered the areas of Beito, Shilin, Nehu, Songshan, Shizhi, and Pingxi as they are today. Initially, Shichisei District Hall didn't have its own building, so it temporarily utilized the basement of the Taikohu Provincial Office, which was narrow and poorly lit. Therefore, the government had plans for the construction of Shichisei District Hall in 1925. By 1927, the construction of the new Shichisei District Hall was completed. The Shichisei District Hall is a modernist building. The pointed arched entrance and the three Gothic-style pointed arched windows above present a robust style of decorative art. In 1938, the Shichisei Irrigation Cooperative undertook an extension project on the West Wing, which followed the architectural style of the Shichisei District Hall. After the war, the Shichisei District Hall was taken over and used by different organizations. Initially, it housed the National Narcotics Bureau of the Ministry of the Interior, then the Taiwan Anti-Tuberculosis Association. Due to changing needs, the building has undergone numerous additions and renovations. For example, after the Anti-Tuberculosis Association, the space was then taken over by the National Youth Commission, which extended the first floor space outward and added a second floor to the West Wing. In 1992, the East Wing of District Hall was reconstructed into a building. By this time, the building had undergone a complete transformation.
Currently, it is managed by the Centers for Disease Control
of the Ministry of Health and Welfare. The Central and West Wing is used by the Legislative Yuan, and the Shichisei Irrigation Association is used by a non-governmental organization as a venue. In 1992, the Shichisei District Hall became the Qingdao House 2 of the Legislative Yuan, serving as research offices for legislators. Inside, the octagonal columns and some doors and windows remain unchanged. The Legislative Yuan serves as the highest legislative organ in Taiwan. It enacts laws to regulate both society and the behavior of its citizens, covering aspects such as national security and livelihoods. It also regularly amends regulations and bills to address the evolving needs of society. The Legislative Yuan serves not only as a bastion of democracy, but also as a crucial venue for parliamentary diplomacy. The people are the true owners of the country, despite the Legislative Yuan serving as a representative body. During the process of martial law lifting and democratization, there were numerous petitions and protests. The Legislative Yuan has also emerged as a significant platform for public opinion. Among them, the peasant movement on May 20, 1988 was the most intense street confrontation after the lifting of martial law. Protesters threw stones and bottles at the administrative building's doors and windows, leading to the later installation of iron bars and roller shutters on the facade. From the Taihoku Second Girls High School to the Legislative Yuan, these buildings have been integral in educating previous generations over the past century. They have witnessed Taiwan's historical trajectory and democratic development. It is our duty to maintain and utilize these buildings with the utmost care, so they can be preserved for the future generations. This is how these cultural heritages can really manifest their era-specific significance and value. A building with stories is called a cultural heritage. The Legislative Yuan, for example, is full of stories. It used to be a rice field. Then it became the Taihoku Second Girls High School. As the nationalist government arrived in Taiwan, it was transformed into a public building. Subsequently, it became the Legislative Yuan, the highest legislative body in Taiwan. Cultural heritages preserve rich stories and history. The construction methods, structures, and aesthetics are also a kind of heritage. All of these are embedded within the physical structures of the buildings. The buildings hold a lot of knowledge and aesthetics. The preservation of cultural heritages captures the technologies of the past, preserving the knowledge and stories of our ancestors. It allows us to learn from the past and experience the beauty of it, and pass on this sense of inspiration and carry it forward.